Because what are we doing when we're mindful? What we're doing is we're slowing down. We're observing. We are noticing. We're noticing that flower as opposed to flying past it. We are noticing the sensation of a touch. We're noticing the taste. We're being mindful of it. And then we shift, and this is something that Diana Richardson talks about. We shift from seeking the sensational to being sensitive. And when we become sensitive to the touch, to the smell, to the taste, to what we're seeing, when we become sensitive, we suddenly realize that there is so much richness in what's in front of us and what's inside us. And we no longer need the sensational, the exceptional, the new, because everything is really new when we experience it mindfully. You know, it may be the same step, but it's a different river. Life is always changing. Ellen Langer, whom you meet throughout this course, my teacher, talks about how we need to create novel distinctions, find something new in the familiar. Whether it's a piece of music that I've heard 100 times, there's always something different that I can hear about that I didn't hear before. Whether it's that person who's in front of me, and it may be my partner for the past 30 years, or it may be my friend whom I've known since elementary school. There's always something new that I can see, discover about them. In the way they look, the way they talk, in the way they carry themselves, in the way we interact. There's always novelty to be found. And when we look for this novelty, we become mindful. And we no longer need the sensational, the new, whether it's the new restaurant or the new food or the new partner or the new home or the new car. We don't need these external stimulations as much. Yeah, they're nice to have, some of them perhaps, but we don't need them in order to experience joy and happiness. That depends on us. However, not only on us, there is also the external world. Because reality comprises both subject and object. To say to someone who has no bread on their table, it's all about your internal world, I think that's stretching it. Because they need an object, they need bread. They don't just need to imagine themselves full. Imagine themselves having a meal. They need to have that meal physically. So reality is not just inside, it's also outside. For a mother or father who just lost a child, it's not just about the internal world. They have just lost someone who's very dear to them. And yes, there is work that they should do and can do, but to tell them, oh, it's just in your head, not the right thing. Because reality is not just in our head. It's in our head and it's in the outside world. And some things we have control over and some things we don't. One thing we clearly have control over is whether we practice mindfulness or not. And when we practice mindfulness, we can derive so much more from the external world. And at the same time, we need to also do our best to improve external circumstances. so that parents don't lose their children, so that millions of people do not go to bed hungry. It's an interplay, it's an and between the internal and the external. Some things we have control over, some things we do not. But the fact that we do not have control over some of the things doesn't mean we need to put our hands up. There is still a great deal that we can and should control, both in the external world and certainly inside our minds, our brains, our bodies, our beings. And to make a better world, to create the happiness revolution that we're talking about, it's both that we need to address. And most people around the world do not make the most of the potential that we have within. And there's no question that if more people meditated, practiced mindfulness, we would have a much more peaceful world. And that's why we do what we do.